The Vatican is shrouded in a fog of uncertainty and mystery. Pope Francis, at 88 years old, faces a delicate moment, and his health has become one of the most debated topics within and beyond the Catholic Church. But is his physical frailty merely a medical issue, or is there something far greater unfolding behind the scenes of ecclesiastical power? What is being kept secret? And more importantly, what will the future hold for the Church if Pope Francis is indeed facing his final days? With each new leaked medical report, doubts intensify. The Vatican insists that his condition is stable, but sources close to the pontiff suggest that his health has deteriorated rapidly. What began as a simple respiratory infection has evolved into something far more serious. Severe pneumonia, imminent kidney failure, and a constant need for high-flow oxygen are just some of the alarming details that have recently emerged. Yet some argue that the real issue lies not only in the Pope's physical condition, but in the impact his potential departure could have on the Church's power structure. Francis is no ordinary Pope. Since assuming the role, he has broken traditions, challenged conservative factions, and implemented changes that not everyone has welcomed. His pontificate has been marked by controversial reforms, investigations into corruption within the Vatican, and a progressive vision that has sparked deep divisions among the cardinals. With his health now weakened, the pressing question is, will he be able to preserve his legacy? Or are we on the verge of witnessing one of the most turbulent power transitions in the history of the Catholic Church? As the world watches, the Pope remains hospitalized at Gemelli Hospital in Rome. To some, this is merely a medical precaution. To others, a clear sign that his condition is far graver than ecclesiastical authorities are willing to admit. What is certain is that Francis has been under intensive care for weeks, and each official update seems only to fuel further speculation. His platelet levels have dropped drastically, he has required blood transfusions, and his body shows evident signs of exhaustion. But is this frailty natural, or is there something happening behind the scenes in the Vatican that is not being disclosed to the public? The Church's history reveals that the health of popes has always been a matter handled with extreme caution. John Paul II, for instance, had his condition kept secret until his final days. The same occurred with Benedict XVI, who unexpectedly resigned in 2013, claiming he no longer had the strength to lead the Church. Now, with Francis visibly debilitated, the inevitable question arises, will he be the next to step down? Or are there forces within the Vatican attempting to prolong his tenure to avoid an internal collapse? The Pope himself has stated on several occasions that he would resign if his health became an impediment to fulfilling his duties. However, some suggest he may no longer have control over his own fate. In the corridors of the Vatican, behind-the-scenes maneuvers have already begun. High-ranking church officials are discussing what will happen if Francis's leadership comes to an end, and the power struggles backstage are more intense than ever. But what shocked the world most recently was an unexpected message from Francis himself. Still from the hospital, he sent an emotional statement directed especially to the faithful of Latin America. His words were filled with gratitude, but also carried a tone that many interpreted as a farewell. In a striking passage, he said, "Dear brothers and sisters of Latin America, in these difficult days, I have felt more than ever the warmth of your faith, your unwavering love, and your sincere prayers. From the bottom of my heart, I thank you for every message, every prayer, and every demonstration of affection. You have been my refuge and my strength when my body faltered. I see Mexico, Argentina, Colombia, Brazil, and every corner of our land united in a single heart. This fills me with hope. No distance can separate the love we share in Christ." To some, these words were simply a thank you to the faithful praying for his recovery. But to others, they are a clear sign that Francis already foresees his departure and wishes to leave his final message to the people he has always championed. After all, He knows better than anyone that his leadership has always been under intense scrutiny, and any weakness could be used as justification for his replacement. And here enters one of the most intriguing aspects of this entire situation, the prophecy of Saint Malachy. According to this ancient medieval prediction, Francis would be the last pope before a period of great tribulations for the Church. Malachy wrote that the final pontiff would be known as Peter the Roman and would govern during times of extreme crisis. Many interpretations claim that Francis fits this description perfectly, as his leadership has already faced some of the greatest internal divisions in the Vatican's modern history. What is certain is that his progressive vision has always been a point of contention within the Church. While some see him as a modern leader seeking to bring the Church closer to the people and combat social injustices, others view him as a dangerous reformer who has challenged millennia-old traditions and weakened the clergy's authority. And now, with his health faltering, a question lingers in the air. Will his departure be a natural transition, or is the Vatican already orchestrating the next steps to determine his successor? The history of the papacy shows that transitions are never simple. John Paul I, for example, died suddenly just 33 days after taking office, and to this day, his death remains shrouded in mystery. Reports suggest he was about to expose a corruption network within the Vatican Bank, raising suspicions that his death may not have been a simple heart attack, as officially stated. John Paul II also survived an assassination attempt in 1981, an event many believe was part of an internal conspiracy. And now, amid such a turbulent political and ecclesiastical landscape, could Francis too be facing hidden pressures within the Vatican? Benedict XVI's resignation in 2013 was already an unprecedented event in recent centuries. Officially, he claimed he no longer had the strength to continue, but many believe he was forced out by powerful factions within the Church. Now, with Francis facing increasingly evident health issues, suspicion grows that something similar might be at play. Yet the difference is that, unlike Benedict XVI, Francis has built a solid base of allies within the Vatican, appointing cardinals who share his vision. This means that if he does step down, the choice of his successor could become a fierce battleground between those who wish to preserve his reforms and those who want to restore a more traditional version of the Church. What is happening inside the Vatican is far bigger than a mere health problem. We are facing a potential upheaval in the leadership of the Catholic Church, and every move Francis makes is scrutinized with utmost attention. Does he still have the strength to carry on? Or are we about to witness a radical shift within the Holy See? Regardless of what is truly happening with Francis, his figure has already become a symbol of division within the Vatican. For many faithful, he represents a human pope close to the people who challenged the status quo and sought to reform an institution long steeped in rigid traditions. For others, he is a controversial leader who weakened the Church by adopting a progressive and decentralizing approach. And with his health deteriorating rapidly, the fear of an internal collapse grows by the day. Since assuming the pontificate, Francis has faced resistance within the Roman Curia. His fight against financial corruption in the Vatican Bank made him powerful enemies, and his measures to reform the Church's power structure provoked adverse reactions from more conservative sectors. Over the years, the Pope has accumulated opponents both inside and outside the Vatican, and the possibility of his departure brings with it a great dilemma. Who will take his place? Will it be someone who continues his legacy, or a leader who reverses his reforms, restoring the Church to a more traditional model? The scenario grows even darker when we analyze the Vatican's historical patterns. As mentioned, the sudden death of John Paul I still raises doubts to this day, and the attempted assassination of John Paul II in 1981 is an example of how the papacy is not immune to conspiracies and power struggles. In Francis's case, his leadership has already been marked by intense internal clashes, and his precarious health may be accelerating a process already underway behind the scenes. The Pope himself has shown signs that he considers resignation a real possibility. On several occasions, he has stated that if his health prevented him from leading the Church, he would not hesitate to follow Benedict XVI's example and step down. However, there is a vast difference between saying he might resign and actually having that option in his hands. Will he truly have control over his departure, or has it already been decided by forces operating in the shadows? Another intriguing point was his visit to the tomb of Celestine V, the first pope to voluntarily resign shortly before his health became a major concern. This event reignited speculation about a possible planned farewell, especially since Celestine died soon after stepping down, under circumstances that still generate suspicion today. Was this visit a foreshadowing that Francis is already preparing his exit, or a subtle warning that he understands the risks he faces by challenging the Vatican's internal system? While these questions linger, the Catholic Church finds itself at a turning point. If Francis does resign or pass away in office, the choice of his successor will shape the institution's direction in the coming years. What makes this issue even more critical is that Francis has already laid the groundwork to ensure his vision endures beyond his departure. He has appointed cardinals aligned with his ideas, decentralized the power of the Roman Curia, and enacted changes that could make a full reversal of his reforms difficult. But that does not mean his succession will be peaceful. On the contrary, it is likely to spark one of the fiercest disputes in the Vatican's recent history. On one side are those who wish to preserve the path charted by Francis and ensure his reforms remain intact. On the other are those who seek to restore the Church's traditional model and erase any trace of his changes. And amid this clash lie a host of political and economic interests that make this transition even more complex. What makes this moment so delicate is that Francis is not just a religious leader, but also a globally influential political figure. His stances on immigration, the environment, and social justice have put him in direct conflict with powerful leaders like Donald Trump, Jair Bolsonaro, and Javier Milei. His statements have always elicited strong reactions, and his progressive posture has made him a target of criticism within the Church itself. Now, with his potential departure approaching, many wonder whether his successor will follow the same path or adopt a stance more aligned with the interests of conservative groups. Moreover, there is a factor that cannot be ignored: the impact Francis's departure could have on the faithful. His charisma and popular approach have won over millions worldwide, and many see him as a symbol of renewal within the Church. His closeness to the needy, his rejection of the Vatican's traditional luxuries, and his willingness to break protocol have set him apart from his predecessors. If he leaves office, the Church risks losing part of its connection with the faithful, especially those who saw in him a hope for transformation. The big question now is, will Francis complete his mission, or will his departure be hastened by internal pressures? Is his health decline merely a reflection of his advanced age, or is something happening behind the scenes that might be accelerating this process? What is truly at stake within the Vatican? Regardless of the outcome, one thing is certain: we are witnessing a historic moment for the Catholic Church. Whether through resignation or death, Francis's departure will mark the end of an era and usher in a new phase that could define the institution's future. If his progressive vision prevails, the Church may continue on a path of modernization and greater closeness to the faithful. But if conservative forces regain control, we could see a return to the traditional centralized model that dominated the Vatican structure for centuries. And what about you? What do you think is happening behind the scenes in the Vatican? Do you believe Francis still has the strength to carry on, or is his departure already being planned? Will the shadowy powers of the Vatican allow him to complete his mission, or have they already decided to remove him? Share your opinion in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel to keep following the Vatican's secrets. Turn on the notification bell so you don't miss our upcoming videos. See you in the next investigation.